folks, lot to cover. All of a sudden, there seems to be a fight brewing between two corporates having an impact on our foreign policy, and I'm going to talk about that later. But everywhere now there's about, including ex-servicemen who are just jumping in with this great stuff about China and Russia and how we'll together take on America and the West. The most stupid argument. Tell these people, I don't know whether they've been involved in the army in 1962. Ask those people, I wish they were alive, to tell you how brutally we were beaten up in 1962. And we still think we can trust China, really. China is okay as long as, you stay subservient. But if you don't stay subservient, then they're going out to get you, right? I'm going to read this out. Right? Ashok Vashni, I think, or Ashish Vashni basically said India's foreign policy in the last 20 years, whatever we developed, is in a deep dive, right? It's dust ho gayi hai, bilkul. The inner core circle of that was essentially USA, where we were relying on heavily, which it's obviously seemed to, after Trump seems to have come, it has gone to the dogs. Can we rescue it? I don't know. Then there's China. We think that, China, Wang Yi came, all that. So, but listen, Wang Yi came and smacked you. The ambassador has the audacity on India's ground to tell us that Pakistan is also a shikar of terrorism. Can you imagine that? We are just praying, China. I just got to get to people, right? It's just not possible. Either you forget it and kowtow. And like somebody says, inch by inch means you give, inch by inch take Arunachal, inch by inch take Galwan. Forget all that stuff. And you say China, Russia. Now there's another problem with that people is Russia. Russia ain't going to help you. Everybody, the way the news has been publicized in India is that Russia is winning this war against Ukraine. Let me just tell you, you're all going to get devastated if Russia loses to Ukraine or it's a stalemate, right? And America comes to Ukraine's help. What are you going to do? USSR splattered. Our foreign policy was in complete dishevelment after the USSR broke up. If Ukraine and Putin loses Ukraine, or it doesn't get Ukraine, we are headed for exactly the same place, right? So, our entire inner circle is in absolute shambles, whether it's Pakistan. After the Sindoor, we've been whacked left, right, and center by the United States. And there has to be a reason for that, right? So here you have this, right? Now, this is a country, Wang Yi comes to India, everybody is half bent over, whether it is Jai Shankar, whether it's Doval, whether it's Prime Minister, right? And on the same day, the top of the line submarine is being delivered to Pakistan. Hey, get figure. Right after he comes here, he goes to Pakistan. Go figure, guys. Go figure. Grow up, right? You have to grow up. Just look at what you're asking for. You have this, not a complete head because Jammu and Kashmir, because part of it is Pakistan, the other part of it is with China. And now you have a crown of thorns, right, on both sides, right? I can't figure this out, right? And how all these people, ex-servicemen, and everybody is jumping on this, I have no idea. It's just befuddles, no end. But Foxconn, like I said, this is the other thing. Foxconn, China's subsidiary, pulls 300 more engineers from India. Now, so for example, there's no way they're going to transfer technology to India. Easing of rare earth bottlenecks may clear way for Indian electronic firms. Yeah, but with every engineer gone, we are like, so they're giving us all this stuff, but taking all the engineers. All well. Wang Yi visit to pave way for Modi's first China trip. And that's sort of Modi, because he wants this thing of Modi and China. He wants to meet Xi. But when you see him with Xi, you see the body language. Xi is the emperor. Modi is the gulam. Okay. De-escalation process at LAC must go forward, Jai Shankar tells lies. And I want to tell Jai Shankar, what a pussy. Right, we are getting hammered in the fanny by Wang Yi, right? What happened to status quo ante, right? Where are you guys? Status quo ante. India, China talk, yield, broad breakthrough. What are the broad breakthroughs? They're going to give us fertilizers and rare earths, right? Inch by inch, New Delhi and Beijing unveil big steps for LAC. What are the big steps? Well, the big steps are Galwan gone. All those posts that we were able to patrol gone. Up inch by inch. Arunachal gone. China and India should meet each other halfway, says Beijing. Now, halfway means half of Arunachal Pradesh, by the way. China ties have made steady progress. Looking forward to meeting Xi, says PM. That's what it's all about. Meeting Xi, getting to SCO and make sure he gets the BRICS presidency and Xi comes to India. And they won't, right? But the army, poor fellows, are going to have to bear the brunt. India must keep tight vigil along LAC army officials. Absolutely. Wang Yi, right after he goes, Wang Yi holds trilateral talks with Taliban, Pakistan and Kabul. EAM raises with Wong trade curbs dam on Brahmaputra. Did anything come of it? China left so. You got to see this. This is the funniest. I'm going to putting this up, right? Relief for India as China agrees to lift curbs on rare earth fertilizer export. Just hear a few seconds of what this Hindi commentator is saying. You know exactly where we've gone.
तिकड़म ये 3 विधेयकों वाली तिकड़म कर रहे हैं, इस प्रकार की तिकड़में कर रहे हैं. तो इस प्रकार की तिकड़में करके सोचते हैं कि ये राजनीति का रुख फिर से पलट देंगे. ये सब कुछ होने वाला नहीं है. देखिए, बहुत इनकी स्थिति बहुत खराब है और देश की अर्थव्यवस्था इनके हाथ से निकल चुकी है. ट्रंप ने इनको बहुत कमजोर नेता साबित कर दिया है. अकेले ट्रंप ने नरेंद्र मोदी की छवि इतनी खराब की है, उतनी शायद किसी ने नहीं खराब की होगी. ट्रंप ने इनको बहुत कमजोर नेता साबित कर दिया है. चीन ने इनकी जमीन दाब रखी है, भारत की जमीन दाब रखी है, लेकिन चीन के साथ इनको ट्रंप के दबाव में ही एक आर्थिक संबंध बनाने पड़ रहे हैं. वो भी सब देखिए, पूरे देश के लिए सब बेइज्जती. मैं चीन से आर्थिक संबंध बनाए जाने के खिलाफ नहीं हूं, लेकिन सवाल ये है किन शर्तों पे हम आर्थिक संबंध बना रहे, मजबूरी में बना रहे. अगर ट्रंप ने हमारे ऊपर टैरिफ न लगाया होता तो भी चीन से आर्थिक संबंध नहीं बनाने पड़ते.
So, folks, now it seems that look at the convoluted foreign policy run by individuals, personalities, corporate interests, right? So you have the ORF, which is funded by Ambani, the head of which is Dhruv Jaishankar, son of Jaishankar, sitting in the United States. Ambani is completely 60 to 70% of its global trade is with the West, right? Then you have CRF and Adani, which is in China, which is currently now being funded by Adani, and you have this Amitabh Kant, etc., with their tails between their legs hanging around in China to make way for good old Modi to China. The point of the matter is that this fight, who would I have rather win? I'd rather have, obviously, Ambani win, because in his case, as somebody says, there's trouble when CBI searches homes of Anil Ambani. I don't know why they keep going after Anil Ambani. If you have the guts, go after Mukesh Ambani, right? Or it's not Anil Ambani, right? And then you have this, US asked India to buy oil from Russia. Jaishankar in Moscow, he says that. But the United States is very clear, right? That was part of the early part of the war when Europe was breaking away from the dependency on oil and gas from Russia, and they figured that rather than create inflation through oil, they did the trade through Niara and through Reliance, right? Oil from Russia to the refineries here and then onwards to Europe. But the point is, the money was made only by the Niara or Ambani's refinery. It never came. There was no impact on India, maybe marginal $3 billion impact on India's trade deficit, right? But it continued to increase India's trade deficit with Russia with no way out. And now you have all these guys, gloop-de-gawk, going on about this currency and, the US, Sergei Lavrov, as anybody has told us that they don't want to be paid in rupees because this piece of junk, right? They, in fact, went and said we had to force to pay payments in yuan. That's what Ambani is stuck with, right? So what the aides are saying is Trump aid slams India for buying Russian energy. US accuses India of profiteering from Russian energy purchases. Steep tariffs on India for buying oil got Russia to bargaining table, says Trump. But that's over. Niara Energy turns to dark fleet Russian oil for survival. Interesting. But here's the point, right? When you're fighting this, CRF and Adani definitely are putting us in the hole as far as China is concerned. And it's a bigger risk for us because, one, it's just exploding our import bill courtesy him, and somebody should take a look at his balance sheet to see how much of the stuff is imported from China, right? Not only that, we are being forced to trade our land and our hearts because of one man. I mean, actually, there's two people destroying our relationship with the United States, Russia, Europe, and China. Go figure that. If any of these relationships are about India, I would say, hey, great, right? And then what did you have this immediately? And everybody was jumping up and, oh, finally Putin's on board and the rest of the world is going to have to take note and India is going to get a pass. It did not. Because right after this, Alaska, red flag for India as Trump heads out for meeting with Putin. Alaska, a witness to closest US-India strategic embrace. India commends push for peace by Trump and Putin. EAM calls for creative approach for challenges. I don't know what that means. Russia states oil trade with India won't be hit. Well, let's hope so. Trade deficit rising due to oil buying need to address it as EM and Russia. So now one side you're saying, deficit with Russia is exploding. On the other side you're saying, oh, let's buy some more oil. And you're saying, Jai Shankar, Russian deputy PM push for LNG trade. What does Russia buy from? Firstly, its economy is degraded. There is no consumer economy. What are they going to buy from India? I really don't know, right? And if you feel that they're going to stay even Steven with us like in the past, they can't, because their ability to supply us defense now is challenged. Their ability to support us on Kashmir is challenged. It's not going to happen. And what did the Suhasini Haider write? Alaskan wins India and the Trump-Putin summit. The visible warmth in the Trump-Putin exchanges does not result in a less chilling American tone towards India. The lesson for New Delhi is that it would need to take a firmer stance if it wants to get back its agents. Look at all these Suhasini Haider, then you have all the other people who really thought that was a game-changing event. The way Putin swaggered in and Trump, actually showed a finger by flying all those B-52 bombers, right? But what happened next? Smashed all India's hopes, smashed all of Putin's hopes. Right? 2 days following Trump summit, Putin talks to Modi about Ukraine bilateral ties. Putin dials Modi, briefs him on Alaska summit. So Putin needs India desperately, and Modi basically, and Reliance. Putin dials PM Modi, shares Alaska summit takeaways. Now, folks, what happens is, why India feels a little is still sitting there thinking Russia is winning as a great power, like that Praveen Soni saying. Russia says it captured 3 villages in Ukraine East. But see what's coming up below. That, folks, is the reality. And now, even the Western commentators are beginning to say that Russia is in a deep, deep dive as far as this war is concerned. 3 cheers.
If you listen to Russian propaganda, Ukraine's fall is inevitable. Donetsk is on the brink of collapse, and with that fall, Russia could push deeper into central Ukraine and onto victory. Vladimir Putin needs the world to believe those lies. His entire supposed peace proposal depends on it. But what Russia says and how it's really doing are 2 very different things. The reality is that Putin has destroyed Russia for just 0.97% of Ukraine since the initial days of his special military operation. Over 1 million Russian soldiers have become casualties of a war that has seen Russia grab barely any of Ukraine. That's according to Deep State, which published a report on August 18th highlighting just how tiny Russia's gains over the last 3.5 years have been. Reported by the Kyiv Independent, those figures paint a pretty ugly picture for Putin. After making significant gains during the first 3 weeks of the invasion, the Russian rate of advance has slowed to such a crawl that it's only managed to snatch up 2,255.6 square miles of Ukraine since November 2022. Before that, Russia's initial invasion, followed by several months that saw Ukraine scrambling to build up weapons stockpiles, aided the Russian advance. Between February and November of 2022, about 41,950 square miles of Ukraine fell to Russian occupation. That's a rate of advance of about 4,661 square miles per month, though the average doesn't reflect the fact that the majority of Russia's early advance happened during the first couple of months of the war, after it had caught Ukraine by surprise. There have been 32.5 months since that initial spurt of occupation. Dividing 2,255.6 square miles by 32.5 months gives a rate of advance of just 69.4 square miles per month. That's 67 times lower than the monthly average seen up to November 2022, and it tells us that Russia's grinding invasion, which Putin is so keen to claim is on the verge of breaking Ukraine, has barely achieved any results at all.
True patriots understand that, to your point, the military is not supposed to be politicized. How demeaning is it for our men and women in uniform, those active in service and those that have been honorably discharged from service? How demeaning is it to see the hijacking of the symbolism of our American military and to be used in the way that it was, the literal rolling out of a red carpet to honor somebody like Vladimir Putin?
Yeah. Well, obviously, Katie, I can't speak for the entire military. And because the military recruits from the entire country, there are probably some wearing the uniform that think this kind of stagecraft is the greatest thing going. But that's not what they're taught. That's not what they're taught in basic training. You don't get involved in politics. You don't give the backdrop, or you're not part of a backdrop for political activities.
So our balloon about this Rick and Russia and China didn't take too long to be pricked. We thought that, after whatever happened in the Alaska summit, all was hunky-dory, India would get a pass. But with a change in 2 days, smashed in the face. And some of the commentators I figure, man, they really need to get out there instead of bloody, I'm not sure where they're getting their information from. Perplexed by extra 25% tariff as US told us to buy Russian oil. So the EAM, puny EAM, continues same broken record. But what does he do? Because his son is sitting in the United States. What does he do, right? Russia launches barrage of drones, missiles at Ukraine amid peace push. We were saying, hey, that's good because, maybe Russia is on top and something will now happen. Moscow, Kyiv launch attacks amid diplomatic moves. Both were doing it, and Putin is just getting smashed as far as from Ukraine, right? Putin, Trump break the ice, Kyiv feels the chill. Wow, who is this fellow? Shashi Shekhar, man. So sad for him. Russia, Ukraine must make concessions to end war, says Rubio. Well, poor Rubio, as it is, he's looking like a flip-flop after, he took a really strong stand against Russia and Ukraine. Then because he became the minister, Secretary of Home, he suddenly decided that now he had to play Trump's singer. He's stuck, right? Decoding Trump's Putin handshake, and this is Anastasia Pelavsky and Pankaj Saran as two views, Kyiv being dealt a raw deal, New Delhi must continue hedging its bet. Well, both got it wrong. Well, they all going to get it wrong because Trump is Trump. But the European unions, wow, they did something that even I don't think Putin think they could. There is no deal on the Ukraine war until there is a deal. Trump calls for peace agreement between Russia and Ukraine, marks a climb down from his earlier demand for an immediate ceasefire. Well, Stanley John, that ceasefire does not work for Zelensky, because without the cover, the security guarantees, he'd rather be at war because he's hammering Putin, right? Ukraine ceasefire hopes dim after historic Alaska summit. Trump drops ceasefire demand, says Kyiv should make a deal to end war. Everybody thought, like especially this fellow, what's his name? Happy Man Jacob. Reading the outcome of the Alaska summit, expect a great power detonate between US and Russia that leaves Ukraine with few choices. If anybody could be more wrong than him, I still have to find him. Happy Moon Jacob. Next day after the Europeans visited the White House, Happy Moon Jacob has disappeared. Oh well. Anyway, that's it, folks. Watch what's coming up.
The realities of trying to wage what is now a 42-month full-scale invasion. What has Putin gotten out of it? He got a photo op with Trump last Friday. Yay. 3 days later, what's he got? Now, you come back to me in 3 days because I love talking to you. And if he's been able to figure out how to pull the yo-yo strings, maybe we're in a different position. But I think his options are limited right now.
Hello and welcome to Frontline for...
He doesn't work with Putin. Never makes that mistake. So not only is it important who spoke, who didn't speak. The Trump envoy, the real estate developer Steve Witkoff, the Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and J.D. Vance just sits there. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth was off to the side looking like he wanted to be the bully in the playground, scowling. But, I think Pete was just concentrating on tough guy pose and wasn't quite sure what was going on. Big win. And it took me from a few minutes to get to the reveal. For all the rambling and incoherence of Trump, several times he repeated that the United States will join Europe potentially in security guarantees for Ukraine. The Trump administration has never done that. They have stood against that. Remember, they cut off military aid earlier this year. Remember, J.D. Vance at the Munich Security Conference said, we're out of here. Bye, kids. Going home. It's up to you, Europe. Now, Trump is saying, we will protect you. Now, that may not mean American troops. And that's where the media will get, oh, is it American troops? Is it American troops? It doesn't have to mean American troops. It can mean European troops, but it means American intelligence sharing, American logistics, American engineering, American transport, American cooperation, and American weapons, albeit by selling them to NATO, who then transfers to Ukraine. If this is the arrangement that is confirmed coming out of these meetings, it puts Vladimir Putin in a very difficult position.
So India finds itself in a very similar position as when the USSR broke up, totally unexpected, and they were unprepared. That's what's going to happen with them here too, right? And as Harsh Pant and Vivek Mishra write, still walking on thin ice, that is absolutely true. And Trump quotes Putin, Ukraine left waiting, Zelensky said to meet Trump in DC Monday. EU leaders invited to join Trump's meeting with Zelensky at White House. And this turned out to be a game changer because there was Keir Starmer, there was Emmanuel Macron, there was Ursula von der Leyen, and then there was Gertz of Germany, right? Trump says Putin ready to make deal on Ukraine. Zelensky meets UK PM as EU braces for summit in Alaska. India, this is a challenge. India, not biggest purchaser of Russian oil, EM on US. Modi, Macron discuss efforts to end conflict in Ukraine and Gaza. But the point he misses is where the Treasury Secretary has said. What he said is India went from 0.1% to 41, 42, and only profiting from it were the capitalists, which is Mukesh Ambani and Yana. On the other hand, China is the biggest buyer, but it only went up from 13% to 18%, which is commensurate with its growth of its thing. And they obviously did not go the additional mile to buy all the cheap oil. That's the difference. Zelensky appears to accept Trump's terms to end war. Russian drone attacks killed 14 in Ukraine, and Ukraine hammered them back. Putin agreed to US-EU security guarantees for Ukraine at summit, and then suddenly he turned turtle. At White House meet Zelensky to be joined by European leaders. Zelensky, Trump keen on trilateral talks with Putin to bring end of war. China refines Russian oil, sells. European can do more on sanctions. So here's the deal, right? The differences are here. Our hope that Russia will somehow come on top, which is critical for our foreign policy. Even the four people to stay in the construct, which is China is out of it, right? China is playing us like a yo-yo. Pakistan, after the Sindoor, is way ahead of us, right? And Russia, we think, is on our side. But if it loses, folks, we are in deep, deep trouble. Watch what's coming up.
Just before the meeting between the European leaders and with Keir Starmer from the UK and President Trump and President Zelensky in the White House, put out a little study where they'd analysed the length of time it had taken the Russians to capture the territory in Donetsk that they have at the moment, extrapolated that and extrapolated the casualties to see how long it would take them to take the rest of Donetsk. They calculated about another 4 years and about another 1.9 million casualties. So there's no wonder Vladimir Putin is trying to get that written into any peace agreement, because he hasn't got another 4 years and 1.9 million people's worth of goodwill amongst the Russian people, I think.
So the European summit with Trump at the White House, with both the barking dogs, Vance and Hexet in the corner, not saying a word, neither did Mark Rubio, played extremely well for Zelensky, because he got all the support he needed, right? Which a video that I'll play up. And as this lady says, is this the beginning of peace? Monday's Washington meet indicates Trump can bring Putin to the table with Zelensky. A credible settlement between them will depend on Ukraine getting security commitments from the US. And if you hear the president, it seems that he gave it. Deployment of European troops in Ukraine unacceptable, says Russia. And what else do you expect them to say? US, Europe start to plan security guarantee options for Ukraine. And like I said, Trump imposed tariffs on India to end Russia's war on Ukraine. US air support possible for Ukraine security guarantee, and Sweden to host NATO troops logistic base. So the Europeans have convinced Trump. And after that strike, which knocked out the factory, which into a US factory in Ukraine, Trump's now all in, right? And Putin is in trouble, and which means India's last of the pillars is in trouble. See what's coming up.
In the wake of recent talks between US President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin, the prospect of peace in Ukraine seems a little closer than before. However, for the conflict to finally end, Ukraine needs some assurances about its post-war security, and it appears that the US is ready to go above and beyond to safeguard the country's future. President Trump has even suggested that the US could provide all-important air support and turn Ukraine's skies into a no-fly zone, preventing a single Russian jet, drone, bomber or other aircraft from entering its neighbor's airspace. This is exactly the kind of security assurance Kyiv is hoping to obtain. It might be even enough to encourage Ukraine's president, Volodymyr Zelensky, to agree to a peace deal at long last. Trump initially confirmed that the US would be involved in post-war peacekeeping efforts during a meeting with Zelensky on Monday, August 18. When asked if that might include putting American troops on the ground, he answered,
"We'll let you know that maybe later today."
He went on to affirm that European nations would be the first line of defense for Ukraine, but added that America would also be involved in protecting the nation from any future attacks or aggression.
We're meeting with 7 great leaders of great countries also, and we'll be talking about that. They'll all be involved, but there'll be a lot of help when it comes to security. There's going to be a lot of help. It's going to be good. They are first line of defense because they're there. They're Europe. But we're going to help them out also. We'll be involved.
Zelensky was then asked if he needed security guarantees involving American troops, intelligence, or equipment to agree to a deal with Russia. He responded,
"It's a lot about weapon and then people and training missions and intelligence. And second, we will discuss with our partners. It depends on the big countries, on the United States, on a lot of our friends."
Later that day, multiple European and NATO leaders praised President Trump for his efforts to end the conflict, with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte highlighting the importance of US security guarantees once again.
The fact that you have said, "I'm willing to participate in the security guarantees" is a big step. It's really a breakthrough, and it makes all the difference.
However, Russia rapidly responded and ruled out any deals that might involve US or any foreign troops on the ground in Ukraine, with its foreign ministry stating, "We reaffirm our repeatedly..."
So to end, guys, well, India likes to pretend it's a tough guy, it's playing the game, it's moved towards Russia and China to show up on America. Does America care? Probably not. Like, he continues as EAM, Russia oil purchase not raised in US trade talks. Trump nominates an ambassador to India, and this guy, Sergey Gore, is 30-year political confidant as ambassador to India, ending speculation. But he's a big hand on Pakistan too. But here is the reality, folks. Written by Tunku Vardarajan. Right, people don't like him, but here it is. India is paying a price for being an ultimately inconsequential global player with a reputation for hedging its bets. Allied to a preachiness in dealings with the West that isn't commensurate with any economic, strategic, diplomatic or moral heft. That's the declining democracy. For a hard-nosed Trump, India is equal to hot air. We like it or not, we got to consider it, folks. Because otherwise, you don't know why Trump has taken such a disliking to India. 3 cheers and Jai Hind.
There's a fire of a new day coming round. It's a feeling like a cool rain coming down. It's a rhythm of a new song singing. It's a rhythm of a new song singing. Oh my, times are changing. Oh my, times are changing. Oh my, I've been waiting.
चेहरे बदलते गए और कुछ नहीं बदला।